What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So a new 52-week low of $9.54 did hit today. I want to break it down, what is happening behind the scenes, what's causing so much fear within not necessarily just Lucid, but the broader market. Over and above that, Lucid did launch their employee pricing. So I want to break that down and what that truly is saying. Before I get into any of that though, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciated. And with that, let's get right to it. So when it's come down to many downtrends, such as, for instance, here back in May, there's been plenty of saving graces, if you want to call it that, and one of which has been Apple. Apple, for the most part, has saved us on multiple different occasions on the broader economy. They come out with their earnings, and it is very good. So it goes to show that, in general, the consumers are out there still spending money and various other things. So when it comes down to potentially Apple might be having a negative earnings, then this is what is causing a lot of fear. And prior to that, though, a lot of institutions have been saying the same thing, that the Feds are basically going to be prompting a recession because of the amount of interest rate hikes that they have been doing. And it's a little bit more of a domino effect, as I mentioned in previous videos. They are seeing a little bit more of a domino effect that it will start affecting Q1 and onwards, more so for 2023 for a lot of big companies. And it's very odd to see that now an analyst coming out about Apple is mimicking the exact same thing. So once again, yeah, it's okay, I'm sure, if the Feds increase the rates and various other things, but Apple hands down has been the saving grace. So if they potentially do have a lot of bad earnings in 2023, then what does that have in store? So this is where now a little bit more recession talks are starting to spike once again. But when it comes to it though, you have to stay optimistic, because it is one thing getting caught up in all of this negative stuff, more so news and various things, but you have to look at the data, as I always say, and based on the latest data, it goes to show that we are doing fairly well, plain and simple. I know back in May, there was huge amount of recession talks, massive. This is why we did hit a very scary point in that, where we did hit, I believe, $13.30 or somewhere around there. But this is where I personally have always said that I don't see a recession happening, at least in the short term, maybe early 2024. But based on all the data that's been coming out, everything for the most part is showing very strong. But like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, so guys, do your own due diligence at the end of the day. There was one thing as well that I just wanted to share with you, and there was this. So Lucid is offering employees $18,000 discounts to buy its cars by the end of the year, and so they're trying to rack up orders, and it is associated to this. So like I mentioned, I think I've brought this up a couple times, the ready to deliver section under Lucid, the 𝗪𝗓 Tourings, clearly they did have a pretty significant amount of inventory that is lying around from canceled orders or various other things. But again, that could be seen as a little bit more of a red flag potentially. And again, some people are starting to say that it is a little bit more desperate, if you want to consider it that way, now that they're actually wanting employees to buy it. Because as you can see in this article, it does say that actual employees were wanting this a long time ago. And a former employee told the Insider that despite employee interest, Lucid did not offer this type of program earlier due to the company's order volume. So once again, cancellations just really screwed this up. It would have been advantageous for Lucid to do this. And personally, if they didn't have a big inventory problem right now, then I would absolutely love this, because this is very good for employee satisfaction as well, because it does retain an employee. As you can see here, they are giving them roughly about $500 every pay period up until that $18,000 is paid. So I believe, just off the top of my head, maybe about a year and a half, give or take. So it locks in an employee hypothetically for a year and a half. So definitely a very good incentive to keep employees there. And this is better by far than the latter, which typically a lot of companies like to give out shares as far as bonuses and whatever it might be. So I would rather them do this than dilute shares, 100%. So coming from an investor standpoint, like I said, I think it is a little bit more worrisome about that inventory, but they are trying their very, very best to get that gone. And hopefully enough so before the actual end of the calendar year. So when they do lock in their Q4 numbers, because I personally feel that this upcoming earnings, investors and institutions are going to be ruthless on Lucid. They've had a lot of hiccups in the last couple of earnings. A lot have been very justified, some haven't been. So I think this is the quarter that is going to be a very, very big deal for Lucid. And as I've even said over the last little bit, more so it is going to come down to our Q4 earnings. So like I said, I think they are really trying their best to get that inventory down just to make their numbers look a little bit better for Q4, but still, coming from an investor standpoint, I think that is advantageous, and I do in theory hope that they do continue this, because I think, as far as, like I said, for employee satisfaction, it's very beneficial. It does help, and it's better than giving stocks or whatever it is as a bonus. So my own interpretation though, I like to always see employees very satisfied, and no different than investors. You have to look at both different aspects. Are employees satisfaction, or how are employees being treated? How is the environment? Coming from an investor, you have to also look at that too. If the environment, obviously for Lucid at their facility, is very poor, then in reality, how can you expect them to build high quality vehicles? So again, it's just a domino effect, right? You need both to go working very much together. You need employees to be happy, you need investors to be happy, enough so that both of which are very willing to kind of put in the extra work. So employees are willing to go over and beyond. Investors are willing to, despite us going down, like for instance, if our sentiment was very positive coming from an investor standpoint, a lot more people would be buying this dip. As obviously I've mentioned. So I almost did have more shares purchased today. I believe I had 200 more shares at $9.50, but at the end of the day, it doesn't look like it was filled. But still, no matter what though, I think there is a lot of fear in the market. We might potentially see some new 52-week lows going into next week, because as of right now, like I mentioned, as far as economic data, this was hopefully the week that was going to take us out of this downtrend. On the contrary though, a lot of institutions, I don't know if it was purposefully or whatever it might be, they just are wanting us to go down. So it really sucks in the grand scheme of things, but the next big thing that a lot of people really need to look for is CPI data, and also the Feds making their interest rate decision. And I believe the Feds are making their decision rate on the 14th. So I want to give you a quick update on this as well. So shorts. So as of right now, short score is 87. Higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening. Utilization is currently 100%, showing 100% of the available shares to short are currently out. And as far as what is happening today, shorts are for the most part being flat. So increasing only 271,000. And I know only is relative, but still that's better than up 10 million, obviously in kind of comparison. Right now, there is 134.98 million shares being shorted, and the short interest as of right now is 22.69. So in general, though, I think this is something to monitor. I personally don't feel we are in a good position to have a squeeze, because we do need a very good catalyst. And if we, for instance, do have a very good catalyst, it can only do so much. We have now so much resistance above us that even if we were to have a squeeze, I think it would only take us to maybe around the $11 range. I'm sure that would make some people very much happy, but in the grand scheme of things, I think this isn't what a lot of people would ideally like. Most of the actual investors right now have an average of roughly about 14 plus. So again, it's all relative. On the actual chart though, we are still very much oversold, and you can see that based on stochastic being 7. And I don't know, maybe I missed the memo coming from investors or whatever it might be, but you can look at momentum indicator. Number of retail investors are just plainly down. So I don't know, did I miss the memo? Are we not supposed to be in Lucid anymore? I'm not really sure. So this is something to, like I said, continue to monitor behind the scenes. But overall though, hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend. Give yourself a shout out as well if you did take advantage and buy another dip today. I know it's kind of becoming a little bit more redundant saying dip, dip, dip all the damn time, and it does suck, like I said, but give yourself a shout out. You definitely do deserve that. But years from now, when you look back to this time period, you're going to thank yourself for buying this kind of a scary time period. But again, let me know your thoughts on that. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciated. If you do like my channel and support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that said, appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.